dives in for the touchdown. Did he get it? Yes, sir, he did. Touchdown, Detroit Lions.
You're listening to the One Pridecast. Hello and welcome to the One Pridecast. I'm your host, Tori Petry. Guys, the tone of this podcast that we're about to have is probably going to be a lot different than any podcast that we have done before. I mean, the current events in our country have been so heavy lately, particularly with the racial injustice conversation. The murder of George Floyd, as well as those of Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery, have been so deeply upsetting that it's forced a lot of people to pay attention, and it's made so much of an impact that the Lions have turned their conversation in recent days away from football and onto current events about hearing experiences and discussing injustice. So that's what we're going to discuss on the podcast today. So I'm so grateful to be joined by Lions Linebacker Christian Jones. Christian, thank you so much for being open to having this conversation with me and, indirectly by having this conversation with all of our listeners who are tuning in today. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me on.
Well, first and foremost, this has just been such a tough time for so many people in our nation. I know a lot of people's hearts are breaking, and frankly, us as white people won't really understand what it is like to experience what you guys are experiencing in this, because obviously our heartbreak, doesn't compare to the heartbreak that you guys have experienced for years and years. So as a black man in this country, I just want to ask first and foremost, how are you doing with all of this?
I'm doing just fine. Obviously, it's pretty frustrating and a little disappointing that, these things continue to happen. I feel like in the black community, these are kind of issues we just have to deal with day in, day out, year in, year out. None of this is kind of new to us. And I think it's just kind of cool that now that, with the recent death of George Floyd and it kind of just sparked something in our country, and finally brought some awareness to like what's really going on. So I'm just happy that people are just kind of starting to wake up and kind of see the issue here.
Definitely. And, it's been so important that you guys have even put football away for a little bit and been able to talk about this in your team meetings rather than starting phase 3 of the offseason program like it usually would be. Of course, you guys are virtual right now, but you've been having conversations about what is going on in our country. What has it been like to have those conversations?
I'll definitely say it's been very emotional, very heartfelt. I feel probably a lot of guys in there probably got a different perspective on things that they never saw before. But it's nice being able, just to talk about all that, because like I said, a lot of people are just kind of unaware or don't really know, just because people have different lives, live in different areas, so it's just. Sometimes it's just hard for people even fathom some things. So, it's been good getting kind of, getting on a personal level with everyone on the team. So we just trying to come up with ways just to kind of, spark some change in our areas, in our country. And I think we're kind of on the right path with it. So I think the most important thing is kind of just keeping the conversation going, and hopefully making sure it doesn't die out.
Definitely. And you mentioned it. You said that some people just aren't aware. And part of becoming aware is listening to people's stories. And I know that's been part of the meetings that you guys have had. Duron Harmon talked about it last week. Frank Ragnow talked about it last week, about just hearing your experiences and what it's been like being a black man in this country and some of the racism that you have experienced. If you are comfortable, would you be willing to share some of those experiences that you've had to go through as a black man in America?
Yeah, for sure. I think for me, for being an athlete, I kind of had a lot of privileges, but I can't say that the same for some of my friends or a lot of my family members. But I definitely definitely wasn't shielded from racism. I mean, for me, just because of my athletic ability, I was able to go to a good school growing up. But being the only black kid, pretty much in my grade, or I think there's probably 3 or 4 of us throughout the whole school. It was a little difficult because a lot of those kids came from families that were well off, and they didn't really understand the problems that that other people deal with in minority neighborhoods or minority homes. So I think that alone, that's something that was tough for me to deal with, just by some comments which I brushed aside growing up. But looking back on it now, I was like, wow, I can't believe that they said that to me or said this to me, and I kind of just brushed it off because it was just kind of an uncomfortable moment. I didn't know how to approach it. I was young, didn't really understood how the world really worked. So yeah, that in general. But like I said, just being an athlete, we kind of shielded from a lot of that. But I have family in South Florida. I have a lot of family in Georgia and Alabama, and it can be tough. It can be real tough for them a lot of times.
Certainly. And I know that you and a lot of your teammates have shared those stories over the course of the last week and a half or so as those conversations have shifted in your team meetings. How have you seen maybe people's attitudes, teammates, coaches' attitudes shift and open as they've heard your stories?
To be honest with you, I've never really been a part of something like this where, coaches and players really want to know, like, our experience and know how things are. I feel like everybody's been real open. Coaches, even a lot of the white players, they just want to understand and see our point of view on things. And even at the march on Belle Isle this past Friday, it was special to me just being able to see some of the coaches out there. Matty P was out there. We had Kyle, the running back coach. We had Braden, our new special team coach, was out there. Hank was out there, O-line coach. Dylan Thompson was out there, who works for the players on the team. And like a lot of them had their kids out too. And I thought that was a powerful moment right there. Just seeing. I think it's big when white kids, especially when white kids are able to kind of see like where their parents stand on the side of this thing. It really felt like a family, close-knit family, just having all those guys out there. Even some of the players came out. And even the march, there's a lot of different types of people out there. It wasn't just black people marching. There were white people. There were cops. They're all different types of people. And I thought right there kind of gave me hope that there can be some type of change in this country with racial profiling, with discrimination by the police department. So I thought it was just a real huge moment. I kind of wish that everybody can kind of see that.
Yeah, it was truly incredible. I went out on Friday. I didn't get to see any of you guys. There were so many people there, but it was just so amazing to see so many people come together and to see it just done so well. And I know that Joik Bell kind of headed this up. He's a former Lion. He kind of helped organize this thing. How did it come about that you guys and so many of your teammates who are here in Michigan, I'm sure more would have participated if more were able to be here in Michigan, but your teammates and your coaches, how did it come about that you guys all wanted to go and be a part of this thing that Joik kind of began?
Well, first it started off with Joik kind of reaching out to some guys. Because I never played with Joik here in Detroit, but I played with him for a season in Chicago when he was over there.
Right.
And we kind of had a relationship there. And I believe Agnew had a relationship with him too. And he kind of sent out these flyers, and we was in our Zoom meetings, and kind of Ag brought it up and said, if there's any guys in Detroit for Friday, we would love for you to come out, and show support. And from what I know, pretty much most of the guys that were here, even coaches, all came out. And I thought that was amazing. I thought that really was amazing. And just like the conversations we had, because like I said, it's something that I'm not used to seeing, especially in like athletics. I feel like with sports, we're kind of in a bubble sometimes and like kind of block out things from the outside world. But like us coming together and kind of talking about the issue at hand and trying to just figure out ways to approach it and what we can do that helps spark a change. It's been awesome. So it has, like Matty P's has been amazing. Just how he kind of sparked the whole thing and kind of gave us a platform to talk about it. And very fortunate for him for doing that.
What has it meant to have someone give you a voice, to have someone say, I want to step back and I want you to talk and I want us to listen?
It means everything. Because I feel like, especially in sports, sometimes you just wonder, like, does this person really genuinely care for us? Or is it just because we're just players or athletes? And his actions right there really show that he really has a deep concern for our emotions and how we feel. And like even through all this, he's been reaching out. I know he's been calling a lot of guys, seeing how they're doing, how they're dealing with everything. So honestly, it's my hat's off to him because that was just awesome. And like I said, it's nothing I really never experienced with a coach. So you can tell he has a big heart and he really wants to do things to change stuff because a lot of the guys on the team are Black or African American, and a lot of us are affected by this. And to know that he stands with us and he's on our side of it, it's amazing.
Right. It's so much bigger than football. And, some critics would say that, politics aren't supposed to be in sports, but, you guys are human beings and it's inevitable that you guys have experiences and opinions and views on life. And I think that it's important to have this conversation in sports. Why do you feel like, the NFL has kind of become a place to have this conversation about race, about injustice in today's society, and why has it become so much at the forefront of the NFL conversation right now?
I think a lot of it too has to do with kind of the Kaepernick situation. I feel like when he started all this, there was a lot of how can I say this? A lot of people didn't really understand what he was doing, and I think a lot of it, the media took it and ran with it, and they were spinning a lot of it. And people wasn't really clear on like what was really going on, and I feel like a lot of people are just thinking that he was just kind of just disrespecting the country and the flag, which had nothing to do with that. He was just bringing awareness to police brutality and racial profiling and just trying to make a change using his platform. And I think the NFL is starting to understand that. I mean, if you turn on Monday Night Football, Sunday Night Football, and you see players protesting, to me that's a big deal because it's reaching so many homes throughout this country. People are going to want to know like why they're doing this, and it's just going to get out there more to help bring more understanding to the whole cause.
Just as an observer, it feels like the conversation has shifted a lot from when Kaepernick's protest first happened to what's happening today. What's your perspective on that? Do you feel like people are more open to seeing racial injustice now than they were 3-4 years ago when that was happening?
Yeah, I really do. And I think people are just really waking up and understanding it. Even with the whole Drew Brees situation, when he put out the post about like he can never respect, or I think he said like he can never respect somebody who doesn't stand for the flag or something like that. I think that was clear. It really shows you that there's really a misunderstanding and there's a risk in our country with that. I understand that he had family members that fought in World War II and all that, but we forget too that there's a lot of African Americans who fought in World War II and did that. And they came back after the war and they didn't have the same privileges as white people. Like how crazy is that? Like these guys were sacrificing their lives and they come back and they can't even eat at a restaurant. They can't drink out of certain fountains. I mean, it's pretty deep when you think about it. So I think people are really just starting to really understand that and just flat out just listening to like what people have to say. And I think that goes up. I think just the understanding part just goes a long way. Like, not everybody has the same situation as somebody. Not everybody lives the same way. And I think we just need to kind of just understand that and, like, just find a solution to try to fix that problem.
What was your reaction to hearing Drew Brees' comments initially?
You know what, Tori? I'm a very understanding person. And, yes, it was frustrating, but I can't say I was mad. It was just, to me, I was hoping that, well, America, right there is evidence. Because I don't think Drew Brees is racist. I don't think he feels a certain way. I just feel like he just doesn't understand, and he doesn't, and that's not to his credit, but that's just what it is. He just didn't understand. And, I think now, with all the backlash that came from that, I'm sure he's thinking about it multiple times a day. Like, I can't believe I said that. Like, what can I do to fix it? But I mean, right there, it's just like I said. That just shows you that's kind of the problem in our country. You know, it's a little rift. We have to kind of bridge that gap there.
Right. I want to give you the chance to kind of respond to maybe some of the critiques of what you guys are trying to get people to see. And one of those is some people who still can't get past the flag issue, who still feel like it's disrespectful to the flag. What would you say to people who might still think the same things that Drew Brees said and might still have a hard time seeing the protest for what it was because of the manner in which it was done?
I'll say to those people that really just, it can even be just going up to a black person and just listen to them and talk to them and try to get an understanding. I feel like it's kind of tough because I know that some people are just stuck in their ways, but I feel for us to move forward as a country, we really kind of got to peel back the layers of this, because I feel like to me it goes deeper than just the police brutality to the profiling. You got to get to the why is that, you know? And unfortunately, our country was built a lot on racism and white supremacy. You know, I think as a country, we kind of got to understand that and like try to figure out ways to come up with like, okay, how we're doing things here is not in best interest of all the people in this country. Because like if you put up the American flag, like I said before, it doesn't mean the same thing to a lot of people in the African American community, because those are people who are constantly oppressed, even throughout this whole COVID situation. The black community is getting hit the hardest out of all this.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just really unfortunate. You know, just the economics part, even like the educational system. To me, it's like it's hard. Like when people say they don't understand like racism, and to me, it's like, well, if you get into your car and just drive around, you can clearly see it. You know, you going down in Metro Detroit. I mean, it's the schools are different, the housing is different than if you go to Royal Oak or Troy or Bloomfield. And, you know, it's like, why is that? It's like these are questions we just gotta keep asking ourselves and seeking the answers for.
Definitely. I think you said that so well. Another thing that people have had as, I don't know, I grew up in a Christian house, and this is kind of the term for it. It would be a stumbling block, like something where they can't really, get past this thing and see the real meaning of it. And one of those stumbling blocks has been seeing the violence of some of the protests and feeling like they can't really understand the why of the protests because they're seeing the how of some of the protests, not all of them, but some of them. What would you say to people whose critique of the movement would be about some of the violence that we've seen?
Well, with the looting, see, I even do I agree with people, destroying buildings and, just breaking up stuff. No, I don't, but I do understand because it's like, imagine being a part of a system that is constantly failing you, constantly failing you. And then, that's just pressure. And all of a sudden, another death happens. And it's like, wow, it's like, no matter what we do throughout history, like we've been marching, we've been talking about this for years. We can go all the way back to the civil rights movement, and I feel it's, especially with the COVID stuff hitting now, like people are hurt. Not everybody knows where the next meal is going to be. Not everybody can pay their bills. And like a protest happens on this level with race, of course there's going to be some backlash to that. It's almost like, to me, it's like it's expected because these people are so oppressed and so angered by the system. And like, what would you do if you feel like a system failed you? You're going to take matters into your own hands, which is unfortunate, but that's what happened. And yeah, it's just tough. And like, this is definitely tough times we're living in. I don't have a clear-cut answer on how to really get people to understand that, but I just know, like, not everybody's situation is the same. There's, like, people saying, why they're looting, why they're doing that. Well, I bet those are the people who are doing real well right now. They're not worried about the kids graduating from high school because the whole COVID stuff. I mean, I'm trying to do stuff right now for kids in the area. I understand that even in Metro Detroit, some of those kids can't even graduate because they can't do online classes because they don't have computers, they don't have laptops, they don't have access to places like libraries because they've been closed. So that's another thing that's going to affect the Black community right there here in Detroit. So it's just a big difference between certain areas and other areas,
Yeah, definitely. And I think that there's been, a big movement for people to say something and people feeling like silence is endorsement of things. So there's been a lot of people saying things and voicing their support for Black Lives Matter and support for, ending systematic racism. Where is the line between wanting people to say something and wanting people to actually do something? I mean, there's been a lot of, we don't want you to be silent, we want you to speak out, so people are speaking out, but then, you want them to act as well. So what do you want to see from people?
I think the biggest thing, I think I just want people to kind of, to research and do their homework on, like I said, how things are in our country. And I think, especially with the elections coming up, I think the biggest thing too is like, what are we gonna do, with legislation to like fix police brutality and all that. I mean, to me, there's not really. It's kind of hard to say exactly, but I feel like people voicing their opinion is a big deal because, like I said, it brings awareness, and like hopefully we can move past everybody just saying something. We just go out and do something. And I know right now in our meetings we pretty much talk about that the last week, like what kind of things we can kind of do that to help and impact the community out here. So I think we just started with that.
Yeah, I mean, you guys already had a social justice initiative. It's called Detroit Lions Inspire Change. It's a way that the players and coaches have been investing money back into the community in programs, that help fight racial injustice and, help communities who need the help. And, Mrs. Ford has matched donations, and it's been a whole organizational effort. And I know that things going forward, there will be things that you guys do and, things that you guys want to contribute to the community through Detroit Lions Inspire Change. What have those conversations been like in terms of, putting action to words?
And I love how you mentioned with Ms. Ford, matching donations and all that. And I think all that's great. And I do believe, like, the next step, like, I see right now kind of how the whole league with the NFL's kind of uniting on this thing. And I think one of probably the most biggest and most powerful thing we could do is kind of the whole league comes together, especially the head of, like, these teams, like the owners, Roger Goodell. I think it's big for those people to kind of speak out, because I think their voices are very, very powerful in this movement. Those people are kind of like top 1%, and them kind of saying something and really going out in the community would mean a lot, especially people seeing it on TV and stuff. So I think that would be a real big game changer for everything.
One of the things the NFL has done in the last week is there were several players who put together a video and said, this is what we want to hear from the NFL. And then Roger Goodell came back with a video that said the things that the players wanted to hear. What did you think of that response, and what more do you want to see from the NFL?
I think more. I just want to see, like I said before, just more of us really getting out there in the communities. Maybe doing something, maybe writing something to our government to try to propose something, just like stuff like that. I feel like can really go a long way.
Definitely, and I'm sure there will be a lot of that efforts from you guys as players, and hopefully across the league as well. Before we let you go, there are a lot of people who are listening whose eyes have been opened, who have been more receptive to what you guys are talking about through all of the conversations that have happened, and hopefully through this conversation with you as well. And there are people who want to be part of helping. I know there's a certain level of sometimes you have to do your own research, and you have to look out there, and there's so many resources that people can look up right now, and books to read, movies to watch, articles to read, and places to donate to, and all that kind of thing. There's so much out there and so much information out there right now, and there is a certain level of not wanting to overburden you guys emotionally and put the burden back on you guys when you're already experiencing the trauma of racial injustice. But what would you say to people when they say, how do we help? We want to be part of helping you guys. How do we jump in and be a part?
We live in an age where information is available wherever. Like, you can go on your phone and you can look up, you can look up anything you want. You can find any, like this, during this time, I feel like you don't need to stay ignorant on things, And I think that people want to just continue reaching out and continue asking for help. I think the biggest thing you can do is kind of start in your community too. Obviously, this is kind of like a nationwide thing, and I feel like every big city or every state is kind of doing something to kind of combat this racial inequality. So I think the biggest thing you can do is try to find programs in your community that you think that can help push the movement forward.
Awesome. Christian, thank you so much for sharing your perspective. I really appreciate you taking the time and the vulnerability to be able to share all of this with us. I know it takes a lot to kind of emotionally process all of this, so thank you for letting us be a part of that with you, and thank you for taking the time.
All right. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.